Это мир Авито, где я продаю эффективно. Ведь каждый день здесь ищут авто более 3 миллионов пользователей по всей стране. Продвигаю объявления, изучаю аналитику, регулирую цены, и все это на едином сервисе.
Откройте все возможности Авито для вашего бизнеса.
Hi, Tim. How are you?
Man, I'm doing good. How you doing today?
I'm doing just fine. Always nice talking to you.
Yes.
Sort of, gives you an extra motivation just by talking to you.
Absolutely.
For those of our viewers that don't know Tim yet, I want to, Tim is president of the Kintz Group, one of the leading, if not the leading, sales training and automotive dealership management company. And he's also a best-selling author of 2 books. One is the book Frictionless. Tim, do you happen to have that there?
I do. I have both versions. I've got the Russian version, which looks phenomenal. And then got the English version, which looks great too. Got both of them. Man, they were Amazon bestsellers. It was pretty exciting.
Right. And this webinar, we published this book in Russia, and it received tremendous amount of attention and interest, and introduced your methods and wonderful knowledge and experience. And today we are going to be speaking about your book that just came out. I think it came out last week. The book is called Fearless. And we will be releasing this book hopefully within a month. So we will talk about this book. And from what you just told me before we started this webinar, it is already a bestseller, #1 bestseller on Amazon. Did I hear it right?
Amazon #1 bestseller. So we're pretty excited about that. It kicked off February 9th and took us 2 days, 3 days, and it became an Amazon bestseller. So that's pretty exciting.
That did not take long. It's an interesting book, and we're gonna. Do you have that book to show us? We don't have the Russian version. It didn't come out of the printing house. Yes, it's Absolutely. A beautiful book. Yes. There is a graphics on the back how the book is going to look in Russian, but the actual book is in Tim's hands.
Yes, we got it right here. This one, that shoulder.
That's
in the Russian version, and it's man, this is a book that every leader, every manager, anybody that's going to be leading people, managing people, whether it's a car business or any business, man, it's a must-have. It's a tactical guide. It's not just a bunch of theory and should-be's.
All right, Tim, we're going to talk about the book in just a minute, but I want to take this opportunity because you are around car business all the time. It's in your blood, and you work with car dealers, with bigger groups, with smaller groups. You're around, you're all over the place in the United States and Canada. And I think last time you told me you were in Puerto Rico or some other state. So I want to get an opportunity to get some insights from you. Last 3 days, there was an ADA convention. It was online this year, and Russian automotive community was watching it very closely. And actually my partner that you know, Alexander, was a moderator of the entire event in Russia. So if you ever see the videos, you'll see him throughout this 3-day event. We met online with him. But anyway, so I want to get some insights into the minds of car dealers, because last year was very unusual, if I can use this word. So what are the new trends in car sales that have developed due to the pandemic-related events, if any?
I think there's a lot of layers. I think, first of all, you said 2020 was a very unusual year. I think that's the biggest understatement you've ever made. Well, man, it was, you think of the layers of emotions that it created. Fear from individuals, fear of, holy crap, what's going to happen to business? What's going to happen to the economy? Anxiety, depression. I mean, it's amazing the amount of emotions everybody went through with 2020. And what's even more amazing to me is the dealerships that buckled down and kicked ass and had a record year in 2020. I would tell you that the dealerships I go into and the dealerships I work with, more of them had a record year than had a bad year. Now, some states were different because they were more locked down. They couldn't do business. But even those dealerships, what it told me more than anything is we can adapt, we can adjust, and we can thrive through any situation if we make that commitment. And that commitment was made for us, right? We didn't have a choice. Digital retailing became something that you either did or you died. You learned to do it or you didn't exist. And, you know, the whole "it's not my job" mindset, that disappeared. It was all hands on deck. Everybody do whatever we got to do for every car deal. We have to deliver a great experience, and we have to evolve our industry and our processes, or we won't be around. And man, this is an industry I've been in for 32 years. I'm pretty damn proud of what they were able to do to have such a great 2020, especially considering all the situations. And on the other hand, there was dealers that did nothing. They were paralyzed by fear, and they didn't adapt. They didn't adjust. They didn't make the necessary changes, and they're still struggling. So it's an exciting time, in my opinion. It was forced evolution for digital retailing.
It's interesting that you notice that, because we speak to some other people in the US, and another conflicting, or I should say alternative opinion, is that the shortages, obviously in March, April, everybody went into shock. They didn't know if they're going to survive, and nobody knew it's going to end up as the best year in the industry. So, but once the restrictions were lifted, and you remember the expression "up bus"? So this year, the up bus from the joke, it became a reality. So the up buses started to come up. The unrealized demand started to kick in. Dealers had shortages of inventory, and they were starting to make money. The gross went up, and a lot of car dealers, from what I hear, I may be wrong, became sort of complacent. And the opinion that I heard from another expert, and this was just last week, is that actually for some dealers that set back the digital retailing years, because dealers were figuring out, why bother? Customers are coming, and that's not the way I think. Nobody thinks it's a right way of approaching business. You should look in the future. So but from what you're saying is the digital retailing did take off, and it's one of the trends that is moving up. A question comes in: what do you think that this profitable year? I don't even know how to put it. Is it a good profit? Is it a stable profit? Or is it just due to the inventory shortages and sort of external things?
That's a good question. And the real answer is it depends, right? It depends on a dealership. Depends on the habits that are being created. You know, a big challenge when things are good is that's when bad habits are formed. And during bad times, good habits are formed. So it's like I was just in a new dealership we just picked up, big Ford store out of Austin, Texas. We were just down there kicking off the whole program. They had a record year. They've got 6 other stores. They got a total of 7 dealerships, and we're starting with the Ford store. And their general manager's mindset is, look, we had a good year, but man, if we're going to keep growing, if we're going to gain market share, if we're going to be able to have continued success, we got to keep training. We need to train on face-to-face selling. We need to be able to close the customers at the store. We need to make sure we're training our digital communication, make sure our digital inquiries are being handled as effectively as a face-to-face customer. And we need to be looking to the future for how are we going to embrace electric cars, and how our service departments and dealerships are going to look as electric cars become bigger. So it really comes down to the leaders. It comes down to the leaders having the vision, having the discipline to stick to it, making sure the training, the managing of people, the coaching is getting done. Then the good things can stick. Is it a challenge to put a good digital process together? Yeah, it's a big challenge because we didn't need it. And we hadn't needed it for 30 years. We never had it for history of the car business. Then we had it, but we didn't do it because it wasn't a necessity. Then the pandemic hit, March, April, May. If you didn't do it, you were dead. And then traffic started flowing. And like you said, grosses are up. Well, gross is a state of mind. I could still give a car away, but it's all about the leadership and how are we making sure that the leaders are doing the right things and helping our players get better and having the discipline. I mean, face it, salespeople, they'll take the path of least resistance all the time. That's their job. That's what they do. Great leaders, they keep them on track. So number one, if I can't get stores doing the right thing, then I need better trainers because my guys are going to do the right thing because my name's on this program when I go in there, and you're going to do it. And you know, the old saying, you could lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. I don't know if you ever heard that one before.
Sure.
Well, that's bull crap. I can lead a horse to water and make him drink. I'm going to run that bastard around the pond over and over and over. I'm going to feed them some salt and they're going to start drinking. But it comes down to the leadership's resilience has to be stronger than our people's resistance. We as leaders have to be more resilient to stick to our processes and be willing to adapt and adjust them and evolve them as we see we need to, but we can't let people's resistance keep us from doing what we know is right. And I think that's the hardest thing for leaders, dealerships, not to leak back into old school.
Well, there's
that answers your question.
That absolutely answers my question, and that's great and very powerful information. I like how you said when bad habits are formed, and there is always leaders and there's always followers. You know,
Yeah.
another saying is, if you are a last dog in a run, the view never changes, or how something like that.
Oh yeah.
So
Well, I lived in Alaska, man, and I did a ride.
oh, you did ride the dogs?
I lived in Alaska. Oh yeah, you know, unless you're the lead dog, the view never changes.
Unless you're the lead dog, the view never changes. That's how it's said.
Right.
All right. That's great information. Very powerful. Very powerful. So there are dealers that are complacent, that just take the profit because it just comes through the door. They're not thinking about the future. They're not leaders. And there are dealers who realize that these are good times. We're making money, but we also want to take this as an opportunity to learn from it and take a step into the future. They always one foot into the future. Now let's go to your book. Now
Yes.
let's go to the meat. I read your book in English and in Russian. We did a lot of work. It's going to be released very soon. Very powerful book. There's no doubt about it. And I'm going to get to that a little later. I ran a little bit ahead of myself. Tell us about the book yourself. Tell us, what is this book? Why is this book important? Why now?
I believe that, so Frictionless was the first book I wrote, and Frictionless was there because it's about closing and negotiating. And that's the biggest hot button, right? It hits managers, hits salespeople. Everybody wants to be a great closer. Everybody wants to be great at negotiating. But Fearless is all about how to lead and manage unbreakable teams, right? We could be the best at negotiating in the world, but if our team doesn't know how to negotiate, if we don't have a good, clear process, it doesn't matter. If we can't sell our people on how we're going to sell cars, if we just tell them instead of selling them, then they're never going to buy in. We're never going to get the results we're looking for. And success starts with leadership. And that's what Fearless is all about. How can we get the most out of our players? You know, I always tell managers that if you really want to have success, if you want to have sustainable success, stop managing your department, stop managing your dealership, and start managing the people within your dealership. That's when you're going to get a difference. We spend so much time looking at the big number. We got to sell 200. We got to sell 1,000 a month. No, you don't. Johnny's got to sell 12. Sue's got to sell her 18. Billy's got to sell 22. Because when all of my people hit their numbers, the store's numbers take care of themselves. But it's, how do I pull it off, right? That was the big thing for me with Fearless, was look, I know I need to do a lot of things. You should be training. You should be setting goals. You should be doing one-on-ones. And so often we just should all over people, right? It's all the should be's, but there's no how-tos. And I always talk about how I kind of joke with this, but I say leadership's overrated. And people will look at me like I lost my mind, but I don't really mean leadership is overrated. What I do mean, though, is the word leadership is overused. Right? In my mind, I read books. There's a lot of great books on leadership. You've got 17 characteristics of a great leader, and it's all these characteristics and qualities and stuff. I love them. They're great. How do I pull it off every day when I walk in a dealership? Right? There's a difference between what good characteristics are and how the hell do I apply them on a daily basis. I walk in the dealership, I've got 20 emails to answer. I've got customers that are pissed off that I got to take care of. I've got service wanting to know about should we or shouldn't we do reconditioning on used cars. I've got F&I trying to get deals bought. I'm working car deals. I've got one guy called in hungover. The other guy's got a sick daughter and we're short staffed. How do I apply these characteristics, right? Because the real world hits you in the face. That's what Fearless is about. How do I pull it off? I simplify it. In the leadership quadrant, there's 4 areas to be great as a leader. Is learn to lead. And what goes into that? Learn to manage, right? You lead people, you manage things, how to train to give knowledge, and how to coach to develop skills. 4 key areas that will take you from being a manager that had a title and got promoted into that position to being the leader of people that will run through a brick wall for you. I think so often managers in the dealership, they are the brick wall instead of having a team that would run through a brick wall for them.
Yeah, that's great information, very powerful. Just like now, I want to underscore the first thing that you said is get the best out of your team, which probably I want to expand on it, meaning that you don't have to keep on constantly replacing people. Somebody didn't achieve something, didn't hit the numbers. You just go out and blow them out and get the next guy and then the next guy. You get the best out of your people. You lead by example, and everything else. The leadership skills that you just spoke about for trans, and you get the best out of your team. It's great information.
Your people are as good as they're going to get on their own. Now what? It's everybody in sales isn't created equal. Your sales, everybody's not going to sell 30 cars a month, but how can I make each one of my people the best they can be? It takes time. It takes time. I think the number one thing that they got to remember is like John Maxwell says, how do kids spell love? T-I-M-E. How do our people know we care about them, and how do they get better? T-I-M-E. What's the one thing we don't do enough of? Spend time with our people. And that's always the challenge. And I think there's 2 routes we have moving forward in this business. In the retail side, we can either hire a team of low-skilled product presenters that are low paid. Maybe they get a flat per car. They're good at walk-arounds, but they're not making much money. They don't think long-term. It's not about turning a one-time customer into a lifetime customer. And you're always going to have high turnover with that. And then you got to have a BDC that's handling everything digital, because our salespeople can't handle it because they're just product presenters. Then you got to have closers. So what happens is, if you're going to have low-skilled people, it's going to be a high volume of employees with high turnover, and it can be pulled off, and you can make money doing that. But realize, as a manager, I'm always going to be training people. It's going to be nonstop herding cats. And it's the old mindset of you hire them in masses, you train them in classes, and you fire their asses. And it's just going to be a constant churn, and the customer retention will suffer. Now, the other business model, And I'm not saying you can't make money doing that, but the other business model is having high skilled, high paid, lower volume of employees, but do more. And they focus on not only the one deal, but it's all about the customer retention. I personally would rather have a team of 20, 30, and 40 car salespeople than having 50 people out there that are selling 6, 8, 10, 12 cars a month, because that's always going to be a grind for you as a manager. So you're either going to go to the high skilled, high value, high paid people and develop them, or you're going to have low skilled volume of people, high turnover, and always be trying to figure out how to pull the month out. That's our two business models moving forward. And I personally believe that as leaders, we need to learn to do more with less. It's not about having more people. It's not about flooding the floor with them. It's about how can I get the most out of everybody? And then when we have to add somebody, then we can add the right person. But it's a simple question I ask every manager. Are you better off being short-staffed or wrong-staffed?
Sure.
They all say short-staffed until Saturday comes around and they got 10 customers not being helped. And it's like, man, we just need somebody out. We need coverage. Really? You need coverage? You wouldn't buy a car from them. And we put them out there to deal with our customers, you know, and I don't blame anybody for it. I think it's just a product of what the business has been forever, and we've been able to get away with it.
It's very interesting. I want to, there's a lot of information, but what I want to underscore, I wrote it down here, is what you said first. You put an accent on time that the management team should be spending with their team. Don't get sucked into the petty things like aggravation in service and somebody didn't show up for work. Devote time to your team, lead your team, just like kids. They appreciate their parents' time. So the same thing happens with the adults. They appreciate their leaders' time. So the time is important. The time you spend with the team is the key. There's another aspect to it, the way I see it, is the time management. So there's only so much time during the day. So you have to make sure that this time is best spent by working with your team, by managing, by assigning the priorities and all the other things. So I just wanted to kind of summarize it. Tim,
one thing on that is, that's part of managing, right? With the leadership quadrant, you got lead and you got to manage. Well, you got to manage your day. If you don't manage your day will manage you. And if you say you're going to get to training will never happen. Well, yeah, we'll do one-on-ones. We'll get to them. It'll never happen, right? If you want your people to be organized, then get organized. If you want to have a daily plan, then put together your daily plan and know what you're going to do every day. We all have good intentions, but we get fooled by the clock. There's no such thing as time management. Go to time.com. You can't buy any more time. It's activity management. Some people get a day's worth of use out of a week. Other people get a week's worth of use out of a day. It just comes down to what you do with your activities, prioritizing and making training, making one-on-ones, and making your people the most important thing, and then fitting all the other stuff in. That's when your team's going to be great, when you make it the priority. If you don't make the time to do it right, when will you find the time to do it over? Never. And that's why it's so important for us as leaders to be organized and to have that good, solid daily plan every day. Because when we are, it makes it easier for our people to be organized and have a good, solid plan every day.
Great. You always find those. I don't know if you come up with them yourself, or you just have so many of them in your head. Those quotes, those expressions. We just started to publish your short 1-minute videos in Russia. They're very motivational, and you have a lot of them, those quotes in there. And I just even wrote one. This is the first time I hear it. If you don't manage your day will manage you. I think it just puts it all together. Great expression. Tim, I have a question. The first book that we published received great attention, generated a lot of interest. It's in a sort of open a lot of interest into the management, into the psychology of the customer, into the value of negotiation, into the value of the tactics. And we spoke at our first interview, we spoke about the audience for the book. For the first book, I'm talking about Frictionless. And the audience were obviously the salespeople, the sales managers, the general managers, and actually even people who are in customer service with other types of customers, maybe on other retail opportunities. You mentioned real estate specifically back then. Now this book, but at the same time, the first book was very automotive specific. It had a lot of details on cars and the grosses and how to do this and that and the other thing. This book is about leadership. Now, leadership is probably one of the most important things in any business, be that a car dealership or anything else. It's an oil company, a construction company, anything. Without leaders, the company is not going anywhere. So who should be the audience for the book Fearless, within the dealership and probably beyond?
Within the dealership, Fearless is for anybody that's either a manager, doesn't matter if you're the dealer, general manager, general sales manager, sales managers. I believe F&I managers need to be part of this. Service managers, they're still managing people. We're managing sales. Service advisors are salespeople. And I think it's for guys that aspire to be in management. If I have top salespeople that's what they want to be, they need to learn what management is and leadership is before they jump in there, because it's more than just desking deals and ordering cars and handling heat and appraising trades. Leadership is all about the people. And I think if they're not given that big picture, that blueprint up front, then they get into leadership and they're not really a leader. They're a manager, right? And managers have titles. Titles are given. Leaders earn the right and respect and trust of their people, right? There's two different things. So it's for anybody in a dealership that wants to become a leader or is a leader. I believe it's also for anybody that is a manager or a leader, potential leader, but a manager of people that have quotas, salespeople. It doesn't matter if it's the technology industry, if you got people selling furniture stores, RV dealerships, jewelry, real estate, you mentioned oil, it doesn't matter what it is. If I have a team that is selling and that has goals and they have targets that they need to hit, they need to be managed. They need to have somebody that can inspire them, that can give them a vision long-term, so they have a career and not just a job. They have every day when they come to work, there's a purpose and they're not just existing. They need to be able to be managed and make sure they have good plans. We have to train them on being good. Your people won't get good if we don't give them the knowledge, but we also have to be able to give them the skills. So anybody that has to hit numbers, have projections in sales, man, this book's for them. It's, to me, the hard thing in sales, in any sales, is the highs are higher. Like the good times are good times. Problem is the lows are lower. When things are bad in sales, they suck. And your mind's not right. And if I don't have the right leader, and if I don't have somebody that can help pick me up, motivate me, put me in positions to win, then, man, if you're not careful, that slump, right? That little dip you have becomes a ditch. That ditch turns into a grave. And that's why we have such turnover, because that the lack of having leadership that can motivate me through the tough times, it's rare in the world, quite frankly. But that's what this book's for, to help managers build emotional bank accounts, to help managers know what they need to do every day so they can make a difference in people's lives.
So let me just summarize this, because this is very important. Within the dealership, I'll make it short. Within the dealership, the value and the audience of this book should be, first, obviously, managers at all levels, sales manager, general manager, the dealer, and also anybody who has aspirations, who doesn't want to have like a 9-to-9 job, who just wants to pay bills, but who wants to grow with or without outside of car business. And outside of car business, specifically outside of car dealership, anybody who is managing the team that has certain goals and targets. Now, since, to be honest with you, it's hard for me to, as you were saying, I was thinking, who would have a team without the targets? So since in this day and age,
government jobs.
Oh, okay. Well, we don't want to go there. But
Hey, you know,
true.
true.
But anyway, so it's pretty much, well, they also have targets supposedly, but anybody who is any leader who has a team and managing the team can get the value out of this book. And at the same time, anybody who has aspirations to become a leader or a manager or just grow in life also may get value out of this book in or outside of their business.
Absolutely. Basically, Fearless is for anybody that is a manager, aspires to be a manager, whether it's the car business or any business that has people that need to be motivated and inspired to produce more and to succeed more. That's who Fearless is for. Fearless is also, like you said, it's for the guys that, you know, sometimes lateral leadership is more effective than top-down leadership. Super Bowl just ended. They had locker room leadership, right? Lateral leadership. Tom Brady, he came to a team that had the worst winning percentage in all professional sports, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. First year there, he's such a great lateral locker room leader. He turned them into a Super Bowl champion. It didn't happen overnight, but when he showed up, within 16 weeks, they became a Super Bowl champion. 16 games, made the playoffs. He led them to changing their mindset, changing their beliefs, changing their visions. So it's not always the top-down guy. It's about developing the leaders within my team also. That's what makes you great.
Well, the book is about leading and management, unbreakable team. Obviously, part of leading and management is, well, I don't want to say obvious because it's your book, but it seems that building that team is part of leading and managing. So great information.
Это мир Авито, где я продаю эффективно. Ведь каждый день здесь ищут авто более 3 миллионов пользователей по всей стране. Продвигаю объявления, изучаю аналитику, регулирую цены, и все это на едином сервисе.
Откройте все возможности Авито для вашего бизнеса.
Tim, I have a last question for you. There's already a recognition of who you are and your knowledge and experience. And we have a great audience that consists of car dealers and car manufacturers. There may be some automotive technology suppliers that will be watching this video. And we have a question. I'm sure you know by now that the sponsor of this project is a company called Avito Auto. It's the largest classified site in Russia, and it's actually the second largest classified site in the world after Craigslist. And they are an official partner of ROAD, which is the Russian equivalent of NADA, and they support advanced projects that can help automotive community. So there is a question from them. You have an audience in front of you consisting of, as I said, car dealers, manufacturers, and everybody who's around car business. What would be your one most valuable advice within or outside of the scope of the book or anything else? What would be the advice you want to give
as a leader
right now? I don't know. Whatever advice you want to give right now.
I think as far as Fearless goes, it's realizing that, and I learned this lesson a while ago, that you have emotional bank accounts with your people. And if you're leading people, it's about building your emotional bank account. And I think so often our people's bank accounts are overdrawn. It's learning the art of or ability to set our people up for wins, put them in places for victories. I think so often we hire them, give them enough training to get out in front of people, but we're not always putting them in positions to win. We send them out to talk to a customer when we know they're not ready to talk to that customer. They fail, they get their teeth kicked in, then they start resisting. Then they start start working against us instead of for us. Maybe they quit. It's how can I build an emotional bank account? I'm going to put them in wins. If they're having a tough time with a customer, I'm going to get up from the desk and I'm going to go talk to that customer. If they're not prepared to go out and negotiate a deal, I'm going to negotiate for them. If I have a deal that I think will be easy and they'll be able to get in there and do a good job and win, I want to start building those wins, because now I'm building my emotional bank account up. And when that emotional bank account's built up enough, then when I have to go make those withdrawals, when I have to lock their heels, when I have to have straight talk with them, man, I have enough deposits to be able to make some withdrawals. And it's building that emotional bank account. Your people will do anything for you. They will, like I said before, they'll run through a brick wall. If you're not building that emotional bank account, you are that brick wall. And people are looking for leaders and great leaders. Well, making a difference in these guys' lives and actually caring about them, they'll follow you. If they're following you, that's when you're going to be a great leader. But I think the number one thing, man, that we always got to remind ourselves is it's all about your team. Stop managing your department. Look at each individual. How am I going to make them better? How am I going to help them have a long-term vision that's broken down into short and medium-term goals, that they have that target, they have a purpose. Rick Warren wrote the book, Purpose-Driven Life. Well, it's purpose-driven career. What's my purpose? Where do I want to be in 1 year, 3 years, and 5 years? And now I'm striving for something. But too often we exist. We have so many people that just show up and they're living hour to hour, day to day, week to week. And they're that rudderless ship that is just out in the ocean, that it goes any direction the wind and the tide pushes it, and it ends up based on where the tide wants it, not where they want to go. And you have to guard yourself playing the game called someday. Well, someday we'll start setting goals better. Someday we're going to start training. Someday we're going to do our one-on-ones. Problem with someday turns into one of these days. Then one of these days turns into none of these days, and we keep doing the same thing month after month, year after year. Look, the best time to do it is now. Don't wait for the perfect time. Perfection is the enemy of progress. And if you wait for the perfect time, it'll never happen. It's ready, fire, aim sometimes. And you'll never be motivated to start doing one-on-ones, to start training, to become that better leader. Just do it, and you're motivated, because action breeds motivation. Motivation is the byproduct of doing all the right things. And when you're motivated and you take action, your people will follow.
It's a great advice. It's actually went beyond the car business, way beyond car business, went into the life philosophy. Bring out the best in people by bringing out the best in yourself. With your teams, create emotional bank accounts that cannot be overdrawn. They have enough value in them to work. And the leadership is a driver of success and satisfaction in life. So the key is to start, believe in yourself, in your team, and just probably you will run into errors or mistakes or misfires, but that's what leadership is all about. You don't expect things to go smoothly. So this is a wonderful advice. It's not even about car business.
You think
about life.
Well, you think about school, right? School gives you knowledge so you can take a test. Life gives you tests so you can gain knowledge. And that's really what it is. It's when we're out here working, man, you're taking tests. You're getting tested every day. And sometimes you're failing, sometimes you're succeeding. You don't always get 100 on that paper, but that's where you gain knowledge. It's just the opposite of formal education. Because formal education, all you do is you gain knowledge good enough that you're able to take a test and pass the test, whatever that actually means. Life, business gives you tests all the time, every day, and that's where you end up gaining knowledge. A book will not teach you to be better at leading somebody. It'll give you guidance. It'll help you be able to put that framework together for how you're going to become the best leader you can be. But now you just got to get out there and make it happen. And don't worry about failing. You'll fail. I don't care about anybody can deal with success. How are you going to bounce back from failure? Because we'll all have it, man. It's just stepping stones to success.
That's a wonderful advice. Went way beyond what I expected. Yeah, first of all, I want to thank you very much for your time, for the opportunity to share your wonderful knowledge and experience with the Russian automotive community and beyond. I hope that this year will be the year when you and your team can come to Russia.
I can't wait, man. I look forward to it, and I want to get over there. And anytime I can help out, I'm here for it. That's what we do.
Это мир Авито, где я продаю эффективно. Ведь каждый день здесь ищут авто более 3 миллионов пользователей по всей стране. Продвигаю объявления, изучаю аналитику, регулирую цены, и все это на едином сервисе.
Откройте все возможности Авито для вашего бизнеса.